What if I told you that everybody watching today is an influencer? What's an influencer, you might ask? Well, up until the 90s, the word was pretty much non-existent. But today, the word influencer is synonymous with marketing, social media, and online business. An influencer, simply speaking, is somebody who has the ability to influence character, development, or behavior of someone, something, or the effective itself. Maybe some of you watching today are thinking about becoming an influencer. It is actually a pretty cool job. Or maybe being an influencer is the very last thing on your mind. But I'm gonna tell you something. Know it or not, like it or not, you actually already are an influencer. And I'm gonna explain to you why it's so important to be aware of your influence and how much power you truly hold. First, I wanna introduce myself. My name is Jillian Harris, and I am honored and I'm humbled to live, work, and take space on the beautiful, unceded, and stolen territory of the Okanagan Selks people. I've fallen in love there. I've built my business there. I've raised my babies there. And I'm thankful to the Indigenous community for the land that I occupy. Today, I'm also incredibly honored to be presenting to you on the beautiful, unceded, and stolen territory of the Squamish Nation and the Leewat Nation. I'm 41 years old. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a designer, I'm a TV host, the founder and CEO of 3 multi-million-dollar businesses, the co-author of a best-selling cookbook with another one in production, and I have a community of over 2.2 million followers across my social media platforms. Some look at me and say, she's an influencer. But there's something more important here. I'm a mother, I'm a fiance, I'm a daughter, I'm a dog mama, a cousin, an auntie, a friend, a gardener, a wine lover, and above all, I'm human, just like you. Over the years, I've had the absolute pleasure of seeing just firsthand how powerful influence can be. I've personally seen how even my own influence has changed not only my life, but the lives of those around me. One might look at me and say that my accolades, my career, or my social following is primarily to thank for the level of my influence. But today, I want to assure you that you do not need a verified account on Instagram with a fancy blue check mark and millions of followers to have big influence. You don't need one single follower on social media. In fact, you don't even need social media at all. All you need to be is you. We all hold the power of influence and of great influence. And I'm going to start by telling you a story that brought this to life for me. When I was 7 years old, my mom loaded me up one day in the car with a bunch of Thanksgiving groceries. And we pulled up in front of an apartment building in my small little hometown of Peace River, Alberta. I helped her haul up the turkey, the stuffing, and all the fixings to an apartment that I didn't recognize. I remember a thin man opening up the door, and he had 2 daughters around the ages of 3 and 5, the same age as my kids are today. At 7 years old, I quickly noticed something was different. Their apartment was bare. There was no furniture, no light on, no TV, no beds, no toys. It was just a dad and his 2 little girls in a dark and empty 1-bedroom apartment. My mom said a few words, she hugged the man, she handed him the groceries, and we left. I was heartbroken. I truly had not conceived of anyone living this way, and looking back, that was my first encounter with scarcity and adversity. I got into the car and I didn't speak a word. I was lost in my thoughts. After a few minutes, what was probably the deepest thinking I'd done in my 7 years on earth, I asked my mom, what was that? Like, what was that all about? And while I can't remember exactly what she said, my mom's explanation made a lasting impression. I clearly remember being in awe and the heaviness in my heart. I remember that very distinct moment in my life where I realized a single human can make such a simple decision and then in turn have such a great positive impact. Maybe it was intentional, or maybe it was simply a random act of kindness that I just happened to witness that day. But either way, in that moment, my mom taught me so many amazing things. The importance of non-judgment, compassion, empathy, supporting those in need, leading with your heart, and that moment has stayed with me forever. And that is the importance of influence. That fleeting moment forever changed me. Not only did it serve the family that we helped that day, but it's also had a tremendous ripple effect on my life and has rippled down to the lives of those around me and my community, friends, family, strangers, and then even my own kids today. For me, that is just one example of many in my life when I realized how powerful influence truly can be. And since then, I've been paying attention to these moments. I've been looking for these moments because when you really start paying attention, these opportunities are everywhere. Now let's bring it back to you. You influence every single day. Some of you are likely doing it at this very second, or you did it today. Because influence isn't always a conscious grand gesture. It could be micro behaviors and then shifts that happen unconsciously. How cool is that? You have the power to positively make an impact without even knowing it. Influence is so multifaceted too. It could be small, it can be big. It could be conscious, it could be unconscious. It can be positive, and unfortunately, it can also be negative. But the best and most daunting part is only you are in control of your own influence. In every action, inaction, and reaction, there is power, which then has the opportunity to cause an impactful ripple effect. So while I'm certainly not perfect and I haven't always gotten it right, I can personally say, like many of you, I'm sure, I want to have a positive impact on the world. My wish is to lead with a positive influence the best that I can, and then leave behind a legacy that I'm truly proud of. What about you? Have you ever thought about your legacy? Or how the power of your influence affects others? Have you ever thought about the impact that you're going to leave behind? Becoming aware of your influence and then recognizing how it can best serve you and then trickle down to others is power in and of itself. As I mentioned, having a positive influence isn't always a conscious grand gesture. It's a lifestyle. The day-to-day unconscious words, attitudes, and actions can be some of the most influential moments. And just because you don't see that impact, it doesn't mean it's not there. It could be as small as smiling at a stranger, being present in a moment, being so passionate about something that fuels you and in turn inspiring others, or even just acknowledging when you're wrong. No matter how big or how small, your actions live on long after each encounter. And I want you to think of these opportunities like a recipe. So here's an example. You had friends over and you made chili from scratch and it's too spicy. It gave your guests heartburn and nobody finished their meal. At the end of the evening, you're already thinking about what you would do differently next time. And then the next time you adjust the recipe. Eventually you make some more tweaks and that recipe not only becomes your go-to, but it's everybody's favorite. Your ability to weave positive influence into your everyday life is the same. Think of your behavior, your attitude, your language, your actions like ingredients. And at the end of the day, reflect on how they are positively or negatively serving you and others. Now, just like that recipe, your willingness to reflect, shift, and adjust will eventually become second nature and continue to bring positive purpose to your everyday superpower of conscious and unconscious influence. It's important to understand and acknowledge how powerful your influence is, and really recognizing how different approaches to a situation can have very contrasting results. Think of all those times that you treated others with kindness and patience. Reflect on the moments that you felt generous, you reacted calmly to a tense situation, or you presumed goodwill. How do those memories make you feel? How do you think they affected others around you? Did that ultimately impact your day more positively? It probably did. Now I want you to think of a time where you overreacted. You responded impatiently. Remember a time you lost your cool or made a wrong assumption? We've all been there. How did that make you feel? And then how do you think it affected those around you? Did that moment hold you back from potential opportunities, growth, or happiness, even if it was just for the day? Now, listen, we're not always gonna get it right, and that's okay, we're human. But thankfully, as humans, we get the opportunity to shift, grow, to change, and to do better. Personally, throughout my life, I always felt that I could do good and make a difference. I created this happy platform. I always tried to have a good attitude, help small businesses. I gave back to charities, and I did most of those things that nice people do. But it wasn't until recently, in 2020, where I really started to understand the true responsibility and impact that came with my purpose and influence. When the pandemic hit in early 2020, the world was feeling vulnerable and scared. There was so much uncertainty and so much anxiousness. And just when I personally felt the most challenged in my life, I was called out. Rather, I should say, I was called in. My online community, who is so smart and I value them so much, they challenged me to recognize that despite all of my great influence and do-good attitude, I actually had avoided using my voice to get uncomfortable, to recognize my own shortcomings, and I wasn't amplifying, representing, and learning from the voices that really needed it the most. At first, I refused to see it. I was a good person. But thankfully, those voices got louder, and I really started to listen with an open heart. And then something really beautiful happened. This time, it was me being influenced, just like when I was 7 years old, and everything changed again. I started to unpack, to unlearn, to get out of my safe bubble. I started to apologize, get comfortable with my fumbles, listen to perspectives that I had not been willing to listen to before. And that uncomfortable, embarrassing, humbling growth experience made me really rethink my influential impact. What am I actually doing with this opportunity on earth? It brought me back to that first experience I had with influence. Influence is empathy, influence is compassion, influence is forgiveness. And while influence can enrich your own life, influence is striving to create a better world for all. So I leave you today with this. You are an influencer. You are. Even unconsciously, with small little shifts, attitudes, actions, words, no matter who you are, you have great influence. And only you are responsible and in control of that influence. Your influence has the power to create the legacy of your dreams. It can be impactful. It can be positive. It can change your life. It can change the lives of others. And I know it seems far-fetched, but I'm telling you, your influence can change the world. So now I want you to really think deeply about your legacy and the impact you wish to leave behind. And ask yourself, with the time that you have remaining on this earth, what will you do with the great influence you hold?